And today we enter the section of law dealing with cleanliness and uncleanness and sanitation and foods that ought to be avoided and foods that are permitted. This is day 47, reading from Leviticus chapter 11, verse 13. And these dietary laws and these specific aspects of sanitation can be cumbersome, and you may just want to slip over them. But there are some things that I want to highlight here. God is addressing diet. He's addressing health issues and disease, what foods to avoid. And you remember, they didn't have any of this like we have today. As to far how things spoil and disease and how to contain it, and not touching unclean animals. And so all of this, some deal with harmful foods that obviously impact our physical well-being. In fact, many of these forbidden foods are still applicable today. It's amazing how many on this list that the Jews were told don't touch it, and they are foods that we don't partake of today. In fact, much of the research on it would suggest that these things are dangerous and can cause a lot of problems. Some address pagan practices. Pigs were a wildly popular pagan animal among the Canaanites. Archaeologists know that the area where Jesus lived and the excavations, that there are no bones located in any of the soil searches that they've done. Pig bones are all over the pagan countries, but we know that pigs are unclean. They eat and accumulate anything they eat, snakes, rats, whatever they eat, they assimilate it through their whole body. And so there is elements here. In fact, many diets today embrace a biblical diet, and research suggests that it has had an enormous impact on lives in the sense of reducing cancer and disease. Some maintain these eating standards, and evidence suggests there are helpful health benefits, such as in our Adventist brothers who do this. Kosher dietary laws are still being practiced, and one must understand that while it may be beneficial, it is not law. And that's the distinction we have to be made here. In the new covenant, we realize that there's freedom, and one must be fully convinced. In fact, the word permissible, but may not be beneficial. Whatever you do, do unto the Lord. There's echoes of Eden in these chapters here. Eat this, don't eat that. Jesus, remember driving the pigs over the cliff, and these were the unclean animals, demonstrating that demons went into the pigs. There are purification laws dealing with hygiene and health, women giving birth to a male child. There's so many days that they need to go through the purification, but when they have a daughter, it's twice as long, and probably because she's given birth to one who will bleed and give birth. Women, remember the woman with the issue of blood who came to Jesus, and she was unclean. You remember that? And she shouldn't have even been there. But the grace of God, Jesus reached out to her, touched her, didn't humiliate her, but she experienced healing. Leviticus 13 can be hard to stomach, but it's important. Moses was a shepherd, not a doctor. He needs God's guidance on the care and the health of his people. Leprosy, very contagious. It's a debilitating disease. It demanded oversight, examination, isolation, so that they could contain the spread of this horrific disease. Priests were a part of this, and they would determine what was clean and what was unclean. And Jesus, remember, in the lepers, after he had healed them, he directed them as the law specified that they were to go and to show themselves to the priest. The priest was to keep his eye and care on both camps, those who were well and those that had been isolated in these camps. They were to be given attention, and they were to be taken care of. Leprosy in the Bible represents sin and its contagious, debilitating impacts on our lives. Sin is like a cancer, and as leprosy would literally eat away the flesh, there's this aspect in which this cancer, this sin, was an analogy of the impact of it. The new covenant reverses, and thank God makes all things new. We are under grace, we're not under law, and this we will begin to address even more in the future. Thank God that we are under new covenant.